Right.
Put it away. I'm totally down for that. That works. Oh yeah.
Oh, and
Take a pic, because I don't want you blaming me for
10 questions on the OSCE.
I think one of them might be different from the other.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's not just disease. It's
I
like,
don't understand how those work. We do it as a group.
yeah, with the med
Do that group
students.
and separate, meaning meetings that we go afterwards.
What? Yeah.
They shuffle around.
I thought you did.
Yeah, I know.
Did you do you know when like our next test is in October?
Yes, I think 26.
Oh, okay, because I thought you said you might change it, so I didn't know.
No, the test is pretty much set. It's just how I'm redoing the lectures and how much we fit in before then, because there's like a zillion holidays in October, and then they keep switching things like
Well, we have our biochem exam the very next day.
the 27th.
Yeah. Or the 20th, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, everything suddenly appears out of nowhere. These
Right.
exams that I had, like, I thought we were having next week, and then I get an email from
Yeah, I
Rafat
know.
saying, oh, we've moved it.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm trying to get a current schedule so that we can work around it. Not to mention dozens of holidays.
Yeah, even row in here will be changed.
What day is that?
It's a Wednesday, Friday.
I had no idea we had an Oscar.
Okay, folks, I guess most of you are here and sober and able to stand up and talk and stuff. Reassuring. Okay, so today we start Skull. And we will be here today, Tuesday, tomorrow, I believe. No, today's Tuesday. Tomorrow, today's Tuesday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, and then Friday we'll be in this room going over skulls. And as I suggested in class yesterday, for those of you who heard, you should have brought your skulls in today. Given our close quarters, well, there might be enough room for everybody to have their skull, or maybe you want to share, since one skull's pretty much like the next. So what's going to happen is, and that's pretty much the case from today and tomorrow, and to a lesser extent Friday, is I'm going to go through a whole bunch of slides with a lot of pictures of skulls and a lot of features identified. The names of the bones, all sorts of little holes and bumps and knobs and grooves and God knows what on these skulls that you are responsible for. At the moment, there is no list of all the things you have to know, but if someone wants to go through all the slides and make a list, that's fine with me. Today we're doing the outside of the skull. Tomorrow we'll be doing the inside of the skull, which you can, in your skulls, you can usually pull the top off. Some of you may even have skulls that have been sawed in half. You'll be responsible for all of it. We have a variety of teaching aids. There's a skull up here, an exploded skull, where the bones have been sort of pulled apart so you can see what they look like. Here's a painted skull. We also have a box of bones that are just individual bones, because sometimes it's hard to visualize what these look like when they're all glued together. And we will make these available to you over the course of the week. On Friday, we will have a written quiz and a lab quiz. So Friday's lecture is fairly short. It goes over skull problems. Friday.
It's on the schedule as Monday.
No, well, Monday there's a real quiz.
Oh.
Friday there's a pop quiz. A preview quiz. A reassure yourself of your wisdom quiz. Okay, so the Friday's lecture will be fairly short. It talks mostly about skull growth and a review of some of the more difficult areas. And then we will set up a practice lab and a little practice quiz. But if you want the real quiz on Friday, we can do that. Okay.
Do you have,
Just kidding.
this is not up on Seabase, or at least I don't see it on
Should be.
Seabase.
No, I didn't see it either.
It's not C-base.
It's the old one.
It's the old one.
The old one is not.
Yeah, I just changed the date 2 minutes ago. Otherwise, the same
Oh, it's
lecture.
Okay.
I'm just following this. There's nothing to modify on this one. It should be there. It was there this morning. It may have a different
We
date
have
on
it.
it.
It's just the one from last year, so we didn't know if it was different.
No, this one's not changed. Skull anatomy's been the same for a couple of 100,000 years. Nothing new to add, really. Okay, so the way this is going to work is I'm just going to go through slides and say this are the names of all these bones, and you should have your skulls in front of you. You don't really need your computers, but if you want to, if there's room, that's fine. And then you can sit down and say, oh yeah, that's that bone, oh yeah, that's that bone. And we have a whole bunch of straws that so we say, removed from various brooms I've encountered in the past few days, which somebody has in the back, and we can pass out, because these, some of your skulls are not in the greatest shape. And getting human skeletal material is not particularly easy these days for a variety of ethical reasons. So these skulls are the best we can find. Do you have a straw? Okay, so there's a Ziploc with like bits of brooms and stuff that you can use to poke holes. Don't use ballpoint pens. Don't use metal probes. You know, don't use screwdrivers, chisels, or any of that stuff.
Yeah, people are out.
Maybe that's good. Do they write names?
Are you sure?
Labels and
In
stuff?
the other one? Mix up? Stevie, why are you throwing heads on the ground?
I don't even know if my job line is
Wait, does the other person in your group? Maybe you guys should check if they fit each other.
Yeah, Colin, my trade. I looked up in my trade drawers.
That's my job.
I feel like I'm not sure if those things are supposed to be good. I don't know. They've been holding it up. Something is a little different.
Where's Jack?
He said he was trying to get an
You might want to put
elevator.
those bags on the floor or something.
He said he was trying to get an elevator.
That's right.
Yeah. I think so.
Your stuff is so nice. It has all the connections.
Some of them are really.
Mine came put together. Yours was. Baby.
Let me see your.
Okay, while people are sort of getting things in order,
So you can try to find who it belongs to. That's not right.
okay, this is actually still true. Okay, why are you doing this? The reason you're doing this is because after this week, you will finally be into the part that you're going to work with mostly for the rest of your careers, head and neck. And most of our dissections, obviously all of our dissections actually for the rest of the course will be on very minute areas of the head and neck region. And it is not immediately obvious where these soft tissues you'll be dissecting lie with respect to the bony anatomy underneath. And this is to give you so that you learn what the bones are. So when we start in the soft structures, the muscles, the nerves are going through holes here and holes there, and muscles that are originating from this process and that process. You have some idea of what these things look like, and when you can go back to your skull and say, oh yes, that's the styloid process where that muscle comes from, or that's the foramen ovale through which that nerve passes. So to make any sense out of most of the rest of this course, you have to really know where all these parts of the skull are, and we want to make sure that you have plenty of opportunity to do that. So we're doing it today, tomorrow, and Friday. Basically, I will show a slide with lots and lots of things on it, and you should try to locate them on your skull. Now, things are tight here, but if you can't find it, I would suggest you ask the person next to you if they found that structure. And if you're all stumped, one of us will try to come around and help you. And if you're really all stumped in the end, you can bring your skull up and we'll point it out to you. But it's pretty straightforward. And I'm passing these probes around because when you try to find these little holes, you might want to stick a straw in it so you know that it really exists. These are the pages in last year's book. I thought I updated them on the CBase this morning to give you the page. It's pretty straightforward. You go to the part that says head and neck, and the first 3 or 4 pages are skulls. And everybody has a skull. This I haven't updated. Obviously the quiz will be next Monday, and it will include a lab part where we will have bones, skulls, parts of skulls, probably with straws going through them or pipe cleaners going through them. And we'll say, what is this foramen called, or what is this bump called, and what bone is this, and so forth and so on. And then there will also be a written part. Okay. Everybody's got their probes. We'll move on. The skull. This is what you more or less should have in front of you. The normal alignment is something called the Frankfurt plane. It's basically you're lining up the bottom of the orbit where your eyeball sits and the top of this thing called the external auditory meatus. It's sort of your ear hole. It's where sound travels when you hear it. And comparisons of skulls and pictures of skulls are usually thrown in this plane instead of, pitched all back or pitched forward. Okay, there are several ways of dividing up the major parts of a skull. A common method is this part, which mostly houses the brain, plus, all these cranial nerves and all the blood supply and everything, is known as the neurocranium, or more colloquially the brain case, because it protects the brain. And then there's the area below it referred to as the midface. And then obviously there's the lower jaw, which articulates with the cranium up here. And the whole area is referred to as the mandible, in which the lower teeth sit. Another way of dividing it up is this whole thing being the skull. The neurocranium is always the neurocranium, and the rest of this is referred to as the viscerocranium or the splanchnocrinium or face. So you'll see in different books and different texts, you'll see the skull divided up in slightly different ways. Okay, so there's 28 bones altogether. Most of them, but not all of them paired, having a right and left side. Here are the ones that are paired, and we'll go over them one by one later. Parietals, temporals, lacrimals in there, nasals, these nasal bones here, maxillae, zygomatics, and then the ear bones that are inside the ear, which again, we'll go over one by one, but you should be able to identify these, and like I say, we're going to go through them. There are a number of bones in the skull that are not paired. They may have been, some of them may have been paired in development, but in the adult they are not paired. For example, this big one up front known as the frontal. You see a baby skull, there's a right and left, but by the time you're born, usually, or certainly early in childhood, the two sides fuse. Other bones, the mandible again has two halves that ultimately fuse, and this occipital bone, there's only a single one wrapping around, and so forth. Okay, so down to basics. So here are the names of the main big bones that you see from the outside, on the side. You can see it in here. Here's another skull. Unlike yours, it's actually painted all pretty colors. So this big one up front, it lies over your eyes, right in here, is not unreasonably referred to as the frontal bone. And as I say, normally it's an unpaired bone. It has a right and a left side, but the suture in the middle is usually obliterated. Some of your skulls may show a little bit of something there. That's the frontal bone. Okay, it's shown in green on this side. The big one behind it, back here, is the parietal bone. You see it poking out there. There's one on each side, a right and a left. The big one in the back, you see right there. You can see it here. We'll get another view from the back. Is referred to as the occipital bone. And this area back there is sometimes colloquially referred to as the occiput. And when we get to the brain that we'll just discuss briefly, it turns out that the lobes of the brain are named for the bones that overlie them. Okay, this big one here on the side, with all sorts of funny processes coming off of it, and we'll spend some time going over those individual parts, is known as the temporal bone. Okay, this one in here that you see there on the side, you can also see a little bit of it in the orbit, is called the sphenoid. And it's very misleading. It looks like a really simple bone here, but in fact it's an incredibly complicated bone in 3 dimensions. And if you sort of look at it in this exploded skull, and there's lots of holes and bumps and processes that you're going to have to learn about it. This one, this cheek bone out here, is referred to as the zygomatic bone. And this thing here that connects the temporal bone in the back with the zygomatic bone in front is referred to as the zygomatic arch. Okay. This purple one here, in which the upper teeth lie, so the upper teeth are in this bone. You see from the front, it forms most of the face down here. It has the upper teeth in it, and it surrounds the nasal opening, the nasal aperture, is referred to as the maxilla. Okay. Then there are all sorts of little things in there. There's a little bitty bone in here, right just inside the medial part of the orbit, known as the lacrimal bone. We'll go over the parts of that. That's where your tear ducts lie. And then just the nose, here's your nasal opening, the bridge of the nose up here above the opening, just right in here, right deep in here behind your nose, is referred to, not inappropriately, as the nasal bone. And as I said, the lower jaw, which has a right and left side, but they're fused together into a single bone, is referred to as the mandible.